So this is our third episode. Today we're talking with the men's golf team. I've got Davis Lamb, John Fellito, and Hunter Ostrom, all of whom are seniors on this year's team. And I first just want to check in with you guys. How about we go around the horn? We'll start with Davis, then John, then Hunter. Just tell me where you're talking to me from today and how things are going with you.
Yeah, hey, happy to be here. I'm coming to you from Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. Kind of in the same situation that everybody else. Most things are shut down. Spent a lot of time with my family in my house. I'm happy to see some new faces here.
Yeah, I'm in my house in Mountainside, New Jersey. As you guys probably know, New Jersey is the second most affected state by this, only second to New York. Everything's closed. The only thing you could go to is the grocery store, and I think, obviously if you're sick, hospitals, that would make sense. So I haven't been able to play golf. I haven't been able to do anything really. So I've just been in my house. I've been going to class, exercising in my basement, and that's pretty much it.
I'm coming from Scottsdale, Arizona right now. I've been kind of back and forth between Boise, Idaho, and Scottsdale. But both states haven't been very greatly affected at all. So there's still a lot of things that are open, like non-essential essential businesses, as well as golf courses. And so I've been able to get out of the house a decent amount. Not that too cagey.
You guys had a great season, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But just because hearing John talk about being in New Jersey, I want to start and just circle back with you, John. What has been the biggest adjustment for you in the last month as you guys have headed home or headed to places that are the best place for you to be to kind of finish out the academic portion of the year? Like you said, nothing's open. You're doing classes online. Like, what has been maybe the most difficult part of this, and what's been the thing that stands out the most to you in the last month?
Well, definitely the hardest part has been not being able to play. The week I got home, that was before a state of emergency was declared in New Jersey, so I was able to play at my home club, and that was great. And eventually, it's kind of been discussed that golf isn't a way of spreading the disease. If you take the proper precautions and you play 6 feet apart, you don't touch the inside of the hole. So not being able to play stings because, there's nobody out there and it's pretty spread out. I've definitely wanted to practice just because we're kind of entering what would be the prime part of the season and preparation for the summer. So I would definitely say that not playing has been the most difficult part. But, classes have been fine. It's tough to stay motivated while you're at home and you don't have a lot of class throughout the entire day and assignments are kind of spread out. But I've been doing the best I can with that and, kind of just trying to do everything as it comes to me and not, if I try and do an assignment a week ahead, I find that I can't focus very well. So I kind of just let the assignment come to me and do it maybe 2 days before, the day before. So that's been pretty much what I've been doing.
I found that with work too. It's like it's easier to procrastinate now almost with all the time.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
Davis, did you say you're back home with your family?
I am, yes.
So what's that been like? Because I know when I was in college, I liked going back for weeks at a time, but now I've been back probably for a while. How's it been reacclimating to life back at home?
It's been actually pretty nice. So with our season, the way we do it, we don't ever have a chance to come home, not from January until really whenever we finish the season. So I wasn't planning on having much time at home, and even through the summer and through my next few years. So kind of to have this quality time, be it forced for the last few weeks and for the foreseeable future, as of now, has been kind of a blessing to be able to spend a lot of time with them. But in the near future, cabin fever could set in a little bit. That's for sure.
I know it has for a lot of people. Let's talk about the season a little bit. This was one of the best men's golf seasons in the history of Notre Dame, and it wasn't done yet. I mean, I know you guys were in the top 5 at one point. You won the most tournaments you have in program history. Hunter, I'll start with you. Just to have the season stop the way it did and the time that it did, I mean, how much did that sting, especially as a senior on this team?
Honestly, the whole situation was kind of surreal. I feel like it was probably that way for all three of us because we were all together playing a practice round for a golf tournament in Georgia. And it basically went from, hey, you guys are playing a golf tournament tomorrow morning, to in like 2 hours from that point, our season was over. Like it was just like quick and furious. We were all sitting basically on the porch at this golf course, just waiting on information from our coach, and it went kind of directly in line. It went tournament was shut down because SEC schools had to leave, and there were a few SEC schools there. Then after that happened, ACC came out with an announcement. And then when we went back to the hotel together, me and John were sitting in the room, and we saw the tweet from the NCAA saying that all remaining tournaments were canceled. It was honestly just kind of weird. Like it didn't really sting for at least a day or so for me, at least, because it didn't really think it was over. It didn't really seem like it was over. Like we all went to the airport together and like left each other, and we're like, wow, it is, especially being a senior. I was just like, I am not going to see you guys again. This is just kind of, it was just not, I wouldn't say it was great, but I guess we just kind of had to continue on with normal life because nobody really knew anything at that point with how things were going to turn out. So
did you guys find that as well? I mean, that morning, let's say before everything was canceled, you guys were planning on playing in that tournament, right? Your mindset was that we're going to keep playing golf for the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
I mean, I talked to the softball team. They were on a tournament, or they were on the road in, I think it was Arizona actually. And they had the same mindset because you kind of have to prepare until someone tells you otherwise. Was there any part of you guys, and Davis or John, you can take this, and I'd be interested to hear from all of you really, because you talked about golf. Was there any part of you that thought, as this was all kind of trickling out, that, hey, of course they're canceling basketball. Of course they're canceling these close contact sports or big spectator sports, but golf, presumably, like you guys talked about, you can be spread out. You can take a ton of the necessary precautions. Was there a point in time where you thought everything else could get affected, but we might be the one lucky sport that can keep going?
Yeah. I mean, Davis and I were playing in that practice round the day before, the day everything was canceled. And, you know, you check your phone periodically, and it seemed like we were kind of joking about it at the time that like the whole world was collapsing around us because, you know, the NBA the night before suspended their play. And then there was just an avalanche of professional sports leagues while we were playing that were canceling. And, you know, we were kind of discussing in the group about how golf is probably the safest thing to do, you know, amidst all of this, and whether we would, you know, be able to keep going or not. We didn't have a single doubt in our mind that we were going to at least play that tournament and not be affected. And we were preparing, like, you know, just as we have always prepared. But we didn't know that it would hit that quickly. And I guess, you know, when the NCAA is making decisions to cancel spring sports out of necessity, it's not like they're going to spare one of them. And that kind of may have ended up being the issue with golf, because I think if there was one you could have saved, it would have been us. But, you know, when you're blanket canceling a bunch of sports that you have to, you're not going to just spare us. So, you know.
Yeah, I think the weirdest part about it was, so we're in Statesboro, Georgia, which is a pretty small town outside Savannah, and we're playing golf normally. Things are getting canceled, and I think at that point, had classes been moved online yet?
Yeah.
They were. So we were like, okay, so that makes sense. Like, it's precautionary. And then slowly things started getting canceled more and more until everything was done. And we're still in Georgia. And John and Coach and I stayed the night. We're having dinner there, and everything is normal. So you couldn't really get the sense that something was going on. It's like if there was a hurricane or something like that, you would be able to tell that something was coming. But it was just life as normal, except we had been completely shut down for the rest of the year. So it was just a strange feeling to go through it.
You know, I remember that day too, or it was Thursday, right? They were playing the Players Championship, right? And like they were coming out and saying, okay, starting Friday. I mean, that day was surreal just watching on TV, because like the PGA was like, yeah, we're going to just play the rest of the tournament with no spectators. And by the time they woke up the next day, they said, oh wait, no one's going out. Yeah, right. So like, it sounds like you guys lived kind of a parallel 48 hours that I think a lot of people in golf and sports lived, which was just, yeah, I think we're going to try to make some changes to make this better. And then just overnight it was, yeah, this all has to stop.
Yeah. You know, every half an hour we're refreshing Twitter and there was some new information or some new league or anything like that. So it was just a matter of time at that point until we weren't able to play anymore.
You guys mentioned finding out together. I assume it had to help a little bit that you were around your team when this information was coming down and you guys could at least be around each other. Just what was the vibe like amongst you and your teammates, and really like what role did the coaching staff play? How did you guys all manage that 24 to 48 hour period where the season came to a halt?
Here, I'll do that one. It was really strange because it didn't really set in what was happening just because everything had occurred so quickly. So what we were talking about when the tournament was canceled and the season or whatever is, we're going to meet back down in Florida as a team, at least go practice, and, in a couple of weeks, and we'll all be together again. It'll kind of be like, our normal practice trips. And we'll kind of prepare that way and prepare for the summer. And, nobody wanted to lose what we had going. And especially for the seniors, it was hard to like absorb the fact that we kind of weren't going to be together on a regular basis anymore. So it was just tough because, coach had to arrange the flights home and everybody was kind of going in a different direction. I was going back to South Bend to get my car and stuff, but a lot of guys just flew straight home. And it was like, is this the last time that this group of guys is going to be together? And it was definitely tough to absorb that.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things coach is best about is being positive and always looking forward to something. And this happened. And that night, John and coach and I had dinner together talking about it. At that point, we could still potentially have something going on. And then early that next morning, coach just, texted the whole team. It was just like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Like, we got screwed. Everyone's going different directions, but that's just how this is going to be. So showing him being, there's no way to put a positive spin on any of that. It was just like this. I'm sorry, guys.
Hunter, I'll ask you this because Davis kind of alluded to it a little bit. I mean, he mentioned that you guys weren't able to find the when your coach can't find the positive spin and he always has the positive answer. It kind of makes it, kind of sink in how devastating it can be. But is there any part of it that, because it's not just you guys, because it's other teams at Notre Dame and other teams across the country and really all of sports has come to a halt, that makes it at least a little bit easier to understand why it had to be done? And it's not like, hey, Notre Dame golf, you can't play anymore. It's a worldwide thing. It's a nationwide thing. Has it made that a little bit easier?
I guess there's always the point, misery loves company. But I feel like there's honestly a special group of people outside that, kind of like we're talking today, of the seniors that have kind of like had our worlds rocked by this whole experience. Then I know for all three of us, we're all planning on going pro at some point. So with that in mind, it just kind of, I'd say that small group of people kind of in our scenario right now, especially for us, like all the senior guys that were planning on turning pro and heading out to whatever route they thought was going to be best. It just kind of gives us all a little bit of perspective on how like crazy this all occurred. Like we, as people, if we're trying to turn pro right now, we have nothing to actually go play in.
Right.
There's nothing for us to head out and play in. There's no where to grind. There's no real place to do any of this. So I guess knowing that, it almost gives you the feeling like you're not falling behind. So that may give us a little bit of comfort knowing that there's nobody out there that's really gaining on me right now. Because I feel like that is kind of that would be a fear with this, is that, somewhere there is somebody playing. But I guess in this scenario, knowing that everything is so shut down, it kind of makes it a little bit easier, I guess. But I never really had the feeling that I guess maybe in my own selfish way, but I never really kind of thought about everybody that way. I kind of just felt like, especially with our team this year, how well we were doing and everything, I just felt like we'd kind of really been screwed, kind of like our coach said. But it took a couple of days to kind of clear out of it, I guess, for me. Like once I went home for, I think, a week, and being home for a couple of days, watching everything kind of close down around us, it put more into perspective that, we just play a sport. There are so many people out there losing jobs, losing homes now, having no real idea of when the world's going to turn back on. Like, I feel like those type of people, seeing what's happening to them gives me a lot more perspective on like what's real in this matter. Like honestly, a half a season of sports doesn't compare to anything of losing your life income in the stock market or losing homes or any type of those things. So I guess taking into perspective that point, that makes me feel a lot better about what kind of happened.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, working at Notre Dame and covering a lot of the sports, when it all came to a halt, I had a similar reaction. Like, what are we going to do? Like, we have nothing to cover, nothing to talk about. And when you have to have that perspective, and it makes sense in the first couple of days to not have that reaction, because you react to what's happening to you. And then when you take a step back, like you said, it helps get the perspective that, it's not all about what's going on with us. I do want to ask you guys, because it was such a good year. All the wins, you guys, I think we're headed for a great postseason. I can only imagine. I talked to women's lacrosse, who was ranked second in the country when their season came to an end. And they're like, we were planning on winning the national championship. I know you guys had similar aspirations in the NCAA tournament. When you look back at the season, you guys still accomplished so much. So I'll go down the line and see if you guys have different answers, but I'll start with Davis. Just when you reflect on the season, maybe you haven't had a chance yet, and maybe it's still, the wound is still too fresh, but what are the memories that you think you'll be able to look back on from this season and still be really proud of what you guys accomplished?
I am very proud. So this thing we've talked about a lot is the way that this program has changed in our last 4 years, or our last 3.5 years. You can call it what you will, but we have just a significantly better team this year in every aspect than we have in the past. And I think, we saw potential in the summer before. We had a ton of wins, everyone playing great. And to come in that first semester and perform as we'd expected, to live up to the hype and do all that and win 4 out of 5 events, it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. We just wanted to, keep winning, keep practicing, keep doing all that. And for it to work out the way it did was great. Obviously that does make this all sting a little bit more, but I definitely wouldn't have traded it for anything. It'd be worse to have an average year get cut off and then just have no sort of hope for the future. These guys, the team that we're leaving the next few years, the 9 guys, they are hungry and they're ready to go. So I think that's a big positive, is that there's unfinished business now and they're ready to come in firing next year.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. I think we wanted to be the team that kind of reestablished the standard for Notre Dame golf. We hadn't made the regional tournament for NCAAs since I think the last year we were in the Big East. So it's been a bit of time, and we wanted to reestablish our name as a golf power, be able to compete in the national championship, win a national championship. And, consider that team still did that. It doesn't delegitimize everything that the guys were able to accomplish in the year and a half or whatever, 3/4 of a year that we were able to play. And we still continue to set the standard, because there are still 6 guys, or, depending on what happens, the guys that are returning know what that standard is, and they can impart that on the freshmen, and we're going to continue doing that. So we kind of need to keep that in mind, that just because the year didn't end the way we wanted doesn't mean that the standard wasn't set for Notre Dame golf moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I kind of had the same point as John. Like, the things that we changed are the things that we kind of showed what Notre Dame golf could do. Things don't change in 1 year, but I think we gave it a good try at doing so. I think the guys coming back next year know what to expect every time they go to a tournament. We kind of created, I think, a winning culture. We always wanted to win. And I think it reflected on how, like, everybody on the team kind of acted and treated each other. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that really changed for us, is kind of how everybody on the team interacted. I feel like we've never had a closer team in my 4 years, at least, than we did this year. Like, everybody cared for each other. Everybody wanted everybody to do better. And that's what it takes for a good golf team to really flourish. Because in golf, it's hard to make you want to like your competitor. But for this year's team, we all did. So
I'm always curious about team building. And like you said, in such an individualized sport in golf. So just for the 3 seniors here, like, how did you guys do that? How did you create that culture, or help further that culture in this year with your group? Because I think it's a really tough thing that can be intangible for a lot of athletes, teams, and coaches. What did you guys do to help build that this year?
So the biggest thing for a golf team is understanding that it's still a bit about the team. So you want, above all else, the team to do well. So the way you do that is you prepare the best you can and play the best you can. And at that point, if you get beat for a spot and somebody, you play your best and somebody beats you, then great. That's just better for the team. So it's important to harness that. You can't, because the way we play is we play against each other to see who's going to start. It's not necessarily the coach's choice. It's mostly just merit-based. So it has to turn into you wanting the best players to go, and you're going to work your tail off to make sure that's you. But if it's not, then great. You wish the best for the team. So coach done a good job fostering that, and everyone's in the same boat, understanding that it's about the team. And everyone wants to start, but sometimes you're going to get beat for that. And that's just what happens.
The last thing I wanted to ask you guys is just about Notre Dame. You guys have been here, 4 years. I'm curious, is there someone, and if you don't have somebody, that's fine too, but is there somebody maybe even outside of the golf program that, helped you throughout the last month, whether it's someone in the academic world, whether just another classmate, someone in the Notre Dame community that's maybe helped you kind of manage this transition and manage, what was a really difficult last month along the way here?
I'm on the SAC council, which is the Student Athlete something council. I'm not sure what the acronym
Student Athlete Advisory Council.
Advisory, yeah.
There it is.
He's not
we'll
even
cut
on
it together.
Yeah, he's not even on it. But we had a meeting over Zoom about a week ago, and it wasn't anybody specifically, but it was just nice to see, because that council's made up a lot of seniors, and being able to kind of feel everybody was going through the same thing together was a nice thing, and that everybody was on each other's side, and we were kind of all feeling the same emotions. So the idea that you're not alone in this, I felt like was comforting to me, at least.
Yeah, so I think a lot of professors have been very good about it, not necessarily the athletes, because to all the seniors that have lost their senior year, not just graduation, they've lost 2 months of unlimited time with their best friends. So professors have all been pretty good about it, understanding the situation everybody's in, and just offering any help that they can.
I guess once I left, I feel like I've kind of done it the wrong way a little bit. I kind of tried to get away from everything and sit on a golf course all day and golf. And I've realized now it's getting slowly a little bit worse. So I guess talking with my teammates and everything like that, I guess not outside of the university, not outside of our team as much, but I feel like that was our comfort zone at school. Those were the people who kind of made our experience the way it was, with how much time we spend around each other. So I guess seeing each of the guys and talking to them makes it all a little bit better.
That's great. Well, guys, I appreciate you doing this today. When the season came to an end, the 2 sports that I thought about were women's lacrosse, because they were undefeated, second in the country. They seemed like they were having one of their best seasons in program history. And then you guys, because as you said, even though you didn't get to finish the season, I think you guys put Notre Dame golf back on the map with all the wins you had, the ranking as high as you did. So I'm confident, based on hearing you guys talk, that you've put that team in a position to carry that going forward whenever play resumes. But I appreciate you taking the time today. I know as seniors, with graduation being canceled, all those things, it's been tough. So I appreciate you guys taking this time today.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to an official Notre Dame Athletics podcast presented by Fighting Irish Media.